I'll talk to you later, Amy.
Jimmy, you're muted on the Zoom.
Jimmy, you're muted. You can't, you need to unmute.
Atta girl. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
I knew it was a mute.
That's the least of my problems is muting. Okay, here we go. So once again, I'm Jimmy D, and I'm a recovered alcoholic, but just for today, and by the grace of God, I am still breathing tomorrow and upright. I will hopefully continue to trudge. And I'd like to introduce you to my co-anchor over here, this fellow.
Greetings, good people. My name is Marty. I'm an alcoholic. I am Marty.
Marty's not looking at the camera though. You know, I just got, by the way, for you guys here, we're on Zoom, you know, to get the gist of this, I got a bunch of people on here. It was like 52, 54 people on here. And I'm looking at the screen, not them. And if I want to look at them, I have to look at the microphone. I mean, the camera.
You've got to have stage presence. Jimmy.
Whatever, stage presence.
Hello.
Pretty soon, I hope to be hired for some anchor on WLIK-NY in Hawaii. Anyhow. Okay, a couple of housekeeping things. First of all, the handout tonight on the front page of it has my email address. Please remember that. If you have any questions, email me. Secondly, to as many people as I could by capturing your names off the sign-in sheets. And you folks on Zoom, somebody sent me pictures of who was on last week, but I couldn't match them up. I couldn't match all of them up with an email address. And I sent out emails to people on Zoom as well as people who are live, an instructional sheet that I think would make it really easy how to do that moral inventory chart that we had in the fourth step, right? Make it pretty easy. It was a 3-page descriptive details, and to let you know how to do that moral inventory sheet. And so if anybody didn't get it, especially on Zoom or here, email me. For you guys and gals on Zoom, if you look at my name, well, I thought it was there. There's my phone number. Text me, but my email address I'm going to put up right now, so you'll see it. And it's not on that. There it is right there. See that? jimmydin43@gmail.com. That's my email address. So any questions that you might have for me and Marty, please email us. If you want to make a donation, you haven't done that live. And by the way, thank you for your great generosity in this in person as well as on Zoom. Everything we gain, I said this in the first time, everything we collect except for what we pay for copies and the Zoom rental, we give to the pastor. So that there's nothing coming our way. And we thank you for your generosity. But if you want to keep that going, especially on Zoom, and you don't use Venmo or something like that that's on there, then email me and I'll give you my home address. What else? A couple of other things. Okay. I'm going to go over a couple of things on step 5 that we really didn't do because, as I said to you last week, it's one event. With this method, 4 and 5 are one event. You're going to be sharing this moral inventory chart with someone else. You're going to sit down and do it with them. Hopefully, you're going to get a newcomer and you're going to do it with them, right? And that instruction sheet that I gave you should make it really simple to do. The one thing that we didn't stress last time, when you looked at that sheet, I mentioned there was a dotted line on the right side to fold it over. It was assets. Liabilities on the left side, the bad on the left side. What bad? The blocks. Those liabilities, defects in us that block us from our relationship with a power greater than ourselves, that can really remove the obsession to drink, drug, compulsively eat, act out sexually, whatever your gig is. I don't care what your addiction is. The other thing I want to stress is this. Sometimes old timers go like, hey, what do you mean? What are you talking about? This ain't alcoholism. This program works for any addictive disorder, provided, the 12 steps I mean, provided that you add to that a fellowship with people that can identify with you and that can challenge you, that can hold you accountable, and most of all, can inspire you by their own recovery from an addiction, whatever that may be. Some of us have multiple addictive attachments, and I'm telling you, the steps work. Why? Because it's all about God, the God of your conception, right? So remember that. It's very important. Fellowship, program, interdependent variables. You need them both. We need them both. And if you're a therapist, my opinion, you're dealing with somebody that has an addiction, the best thing you can do is refer them to a 12-step program, this miraculous design for living, and then work with them for $110 a week or whatever the hell you charge. I don't know. But I'm serious. That's the best thing you can do. That's not my opinion either. That's a great psychiatrist from the 30s, Dr. Theobald. Okay. The handouts are here. You got those. I think you have them online on Zoom. I emailed out as many as I could when I had, to you folks. What else? Oh, at 8 o'clock, would you mind just passing the basket here live? And the same thing, I'll post that again on Zoom. If you want to make a donation to us that way, that's fine. Or you can email me and I'll give you my home address if you're not comfortable with that. I was just kidding around. I wasn't kidding around. Something happened to a friend of mine on Zoom who's on this. I think she's on tonight. She sent us a donation and then called me on the phone and said, "Did you get the mail? Did you get the mail yet?" I opened up the mail and it's a check for $750, but it's made out to somebody else. It's made out to her construction contractor. And she sent her construction contractor a check for Jim Devine for $25. And he calls up and he's doing a big job in her house. He says, "I think you made a mistake. I don't know who this Jim Devine is." So she said, "Jimmy, I was going to tell him to get on Zoom so he could do the steps with us." Anyway. Okay, so we're going to go over a couple of things from step 5, all right? And again, as I said to you, it's one event, but there's some things in the big book that I think you should see. So I hope you have your big book with you. So open it up to page 73, paragraph number 4. Page 73, paragraph 4. All right? Line number 1, and then we're going to go to page 74. So we'll follow along as best you can. Some of it may jump, but follow along. And it starts with this. Oh, I'll wait till somebody gets settled in. So we're on the big book, page 73, paragraph 4, line number 1, and then page 74, 1 to 9, because it probably goes to right the next page in the book. I don't have the book open. We have these notes that we made up. We've been doing this, as we mentioned, for 14 years. So we capture a lot of this stuff in this book rather than having to turn pages like you do. It's easier on us. You have to turn the pages. So here we go. We must be entirely what? Go ahead.
We must be entirely honest with somebody if we expect to live long or happily in this world. Rightly and naturally, we think well before we choose the person or persons with whom to take this intimate and confidential step. Those of us belonging to a religious denomination which requires confession must, and of course, will want to go to the properly appointed authority whose duty it is to receive it. Though we have no religious connection, we may still do well to talk with someone ordained by an established religion. If we cannot or would rather not do this, we search our acquaintance for a close-mouthed, understanding friend. Perhaps our doctor or psychologist will be the person.
I often wonder if Bill W. put this in here because he was very, very close to a Reverend Samuel Shoemaker, who was the pioneer of the Oxford group, the foundation stone of AA in New York. And Sam Shoemaker was so close to Bill, and Bill was so close to him, that Bill asked Sam to write the big book. And Sam refused. He refused. But he highly influenced the big book. He's highly influenced Bill because Bill was steeped. Remember what I told you guys, from 1934 until 1937, Bill W. and the New York contingent was steeped deeply into the Oxford group. Evangelical, Jesus Christ was their higher power, very focused on Christianity. And then Bill W. pulled away in 37. And now, thank God, in a sense that happened because it opened the doors to AA. Akron, Dr. Bob, and all the pioneers out there, they were heavy duty Oxford groupers. They stayed until 39. So there's always a little bit of a tension between New York and Akron. So the other thing I want to tell you too, and what Marty just read and what you guys just read, the Back to Basic Methods, that book, you know, that's, if you go to a real back to basic workshop, they were just on, by the way, on Zoom on Sunday nights, 4 Sunday nights. In fact, they're still on Zoom. The way they do it, there's no seeking out a real, have confidence in the person you seek out to do the 4th step with, this moral inventory. They pair you up. And actually, the guy who wrote the book, in the workshops he does, they pair you up with somebody. Marty had that happen. Marty went on a weekend and got paired up with another person. And they go off together. You don't know the person, they don't know you. Boom. You go down that chart. Again, give me 5. Just give me 5.
It works. It really does.
So there you go. Anyway, let's go to page 70, paragraph 1. And this is sort of like repentance, having a heart, you know, have a heart here. Repentance. If we are sorry, by the way, go down 4 lines. Page 70, paragraph 1, go down 4 lines. We're talking about if we have an attitude of repentance, you know, if we're really sorry when you're doing this 5th step. Go ahead.
If we are sorry for what we have done and have an honest desire to let God take us to better things, we believe we'll be forgiven and will have learned our lesson. If we are not sorry and our conduct continues to harm others, we are quite sure to drink. We are not theorizing. These are facts out of our experience.
If drinking is not your addiction, substitute it. The same deal. Will relapse. That's what he's saying. That's not us. Told you from the beginning, my big attraction to this book, our big attraction to this book, no evangelization, no preaching, all experience, strength, and hope. Theirs, the pioneers. It works. Okay. Question always arises, and this may happen to you with a newcomer. Why do I have to do this? First of all, I don't want to do this. They may not say that to you. I don't want to deal with my shame. You know what shame's whole objective is? Its whole objective is to not be exposed. Many family systems have that affect, that emotion, that defect running through their whole family system for generations.
Yes, can it go over in the back of the truck out?
Huh?
Please shut your mic off.
Did you say yes, can in the back of the truck?
Hello, shut your mic off. So anyway, that's new language since ever since COVID, you know, mute your mics. We never heard that before. Mute your mics. You're muted. You're muted. It's another one. But anyway, so what's the best reason first? I don't know where I was with that. I got lost, but let's read what's the best reason first. The best reason first. Did you read that already?
No.
Go ahead.
Best reason first. If we skip this vital step, we may not overcome drinking. Time after time, newcomers have tried to keep to themselves certain facts about their lives. Trying to avoid this humbling experience, they have turned to easier methods. Almost invariably, they got drunk. Having persevered with the rest of the program, they wondered why they fell. We think the reason is that they never completed their house cleaning. They took inventory, all right, but hung on to some of the worst items in stock. They only thought they had lost their egoism and fear. They only thought they had humbled themselves, but they had not learned enough humility, fearlessness, and honesty. In this sense, we find it necessary until they told someone else their life story.
Okay. once again, is a contradiction. Telling someone else your life story. In this method, with this chart, give me 5. Remember the pipes? Just open up enough of the pipes. If you want to tell somebody your 7,000 resentments, then go ahead. If the person wants to sit with you that long. But it also means if you have 7,000 resentments, when you get to your 8th step list, you're going to have a lot of work to do. The same formula will work for 7,000 resentments as it'll work for 5. And the formula we covered last week is on the bottom of page 66 and 67. It's called the pity, patience, and tolerance prayer. Remember? I don't like pity. It's compassion. God, help me to turn my glasses around and see that person I'm pissed at differently. Help them to see me as wounded just like me. And I can't do it by myself, God. So you got to do it for me. Help me see them that way. I don't have the power. Remember? What's my dilemma? Lack of power. And it's not only in drinking or drugging or sexing or whatever your gig is. It's lack of power. I have no power. Okay. Then
Jimmy,
to it. And then we covered this last week, which I think is important. We'll do it again. Because I really think this is important. You faced your shame, which is very hard to do. That's what I was talking about, by the way, when I got distracted, right? Shame. It is an emotion, a deep emotion, deep affect, they call it. We have 9 affects, which are the seedbed of all emotions. It's automatic. Shame shows up in the face. Usually we blush, we get red, right? Watch a child. For example, say you have a party at home, right? And you got a couple of kids and you're having all the family over and everybody's there. And then you got a 4-year-old. Gets out of the tub, comes in, walks in the room where everybody is having a drink and having fun. And they have nothing on except bubbles. And mama goes, "What are you doing? What are you doing? Get out of here." You know, somebody yells, right? Got no clothes on. Or maybe they're 6. Maybe they're 46. That's even worse if they're drunk. That's happened. A friend of mine actually carried naked, drunk, carried his mattress out of the bedroom that was on fire. And his wife was outside with a few girls from Al-Anon. But anyway, but I'm talking about a child. Watch what happens in a child's face. Shame shows up in the face. Blush. Their little lip, the bottom lip goes, starts to shake, right? Shame shows up in the face. It is a very, very strong deterrent against being open about things which may embarrass us. Shame. So when you overcome that by doing this work, by this step, it's a godsend. It's a godsend. But let me also just mention this too. I'm focusing here, obviously, on that side of the moral inventory sheet that was negative, right? You got to tell everybody the negatives about yourself. Give me 5, okay? And how I harm somebody. What are my resentments? What am I afraid of and how I harm somebody? But on the right side of the ledger, the word moral, a moral inventory, the word moral means what? Good and bad. What's good, what's bad? So there's a lot of assets you and I have. Sometimes you have more assets going on than you know about. So when we finish the negative side of this inventory, then we unfold that chart and you realize the opposite of resentment is forgiveness. The opposite of fear is what? Faith. The opposite of selfishness is unselfishness. The opposite of ego, our ego, is humility, right? So what does that mean? That means they're the goals we're shooting for as we recover. And when next week, when we get into step 10, it says in step 10, we must continue this for a lifetime. How long is this gonna take before I really get it? It's a long time. I got sober in 69, so I still struggle with humility, you know? Oh my God. I told you that. Somebody walks up to you after a great talk, you know, you go out on a speaking circuit. I used to be on a speaking circuit. You go out there and 500 people, everybody's clapping, come up, shaking your hand. And then one guy comes up and goes, "You stick your hand out," but he doesn't. You know something? That's the worst freaking talk I ever heard in my life. I don't care if you're sober 100 years. That hurts. The ego gets, you know, so anyway, whatever. But remember that inventory sheet has a good side. So focus on those as your goals. They're your goals. All right, you shared all your stuff with somebody. Now go to page 75 again. Paragraph number 3, lines 2 to 12. Go down. We read it last time. We're going to read it again because it's that important. And underline the first sentence. Page 75, paragraph 3, line 2 to 12. It's a review. Go ahead.
We thank God from the bottom of our heart that we know him better. Taking this book down from our shelf, we turn to the page which contains the 12 steps. Carefully reading the first 5 proposals, we ask if we have omitted anything. For we are building an arch through which we shall walk a free man or a woman at last. Is our work solid so far? Are the stones properly in place? Have we skimped on the cement put into the foundation? Have we tried to make mortar without sand?
Bill W. is a wordsmith. Really was. He was a wordsmith. These are all metaphors. You know the deal. Am I telling you half a story? Am I skimping along? And why do we do that? Because we're embarrassed. We don't want to face the shame. I tell a priest, for example, or a rabbi, I stole 4 hubcaps. I don't want to tell him I stole a car that went with the hubcaps. You know? Why? Because it's shame. It's shame. You know, I punched somebody outside of a bar. I don't want to tell somebody that I killed a person. I don't want to say that, right? That's pretty extreme. But right at the top of that paragraph on page 75, by the way, on the last paragraph, it says, returning home, we find a place where we can be quiet for an hour. Carefully reviewing this, right? You're going to be doing this with a newcomer, and I'm going to say to you, well, you know, I mean, how long should I take here? What should I do here? How long? 1 hour. How long before we get to step 6? We do like 1 a month here, don't we? 1 step a month. My sponsor said to me, Jimmy, you do a step a year. How long do you want to remain sick? 12 years? Step a month. Nah. How long is it between step 4 and 5 and 6? 1 hour. That's what it says here, an hour. The pioneers jump right into this. Why? I told you in the first time. They wanted to get us into recovery rapidly and then live 10, 11, and 12. Rapidly doesn't mean perfectly. Marty and I get criticized, you know, like, yeah, these 2 guys, they go through the steps in 4 weeks here and then, you know, everybody's cured. No. We follow what the founders were replicating, hopefully what the founders did from 1941, as I mentioned, till the end of the 50s, till the 12 and 12 come out. And this baby went on a shelf. 12 and 12 became the way to take the steps, but that doesn't teach you how to take the steps. That's a supplement. You want to fix a car? Go to the instruction manual. Don't go to the supplement. This is the instruction manual. So let's go to page 76 for step 6. Step 6 only has 1 paragraph. So we're going to go lines 3 to 7 to step 6. Hold on here. We got to get there. Wait a second. It says if we can answer to, well, let me just intro this and Marty can read the rest. If we can answer to our satisfaction, we then look at step 6. Answer what? Answer those questions that Bill is putting to us. Have you skimped on a cement? Did you tell him you just took hubcaps? You know? That's what he's saying. If you can answer your satisfaction, you've been pretty honest and open on step 5. We've emphasized that willingness as being indispensable. Okay? Indispensable. Go ahead. Read that again, Marty. We have emphasized willingness. Go ahead.
We have emphasized willingness as being indispensable. Are we now ready to let God remove from us all the things which we have admitted are objectionable? Can he now take them all, every one? If we still cling to something we will not let go, we ask God to help us be willing.
I can't tell you the number of years I never saw that line. Because first of all, I never took a course. I never did this with anybody. It took me 40 years to do this kind of work. I never did it with anybody. I never really studied this book. So I never saw that one line. I never saw, Jimmy, if you still cling to a resentment that you have towards some guy from 25 years ago, or one in particular when I was 12, a guy kicked me in the stomach and I was afraid to hit him back because I was afraid of him. I carried that around with me like a shame, you know, and a resentment against this guy. I still remember his name. So I didn't know that this was here. Jimmy, if you still cling to something you will not let go of, you ask God to be willing. You ask him to be willing. Are you now ready to have God remove every single defect of your character? My answer was no, for years. No. There's one I want to hang on to, and it wasn't a resentment. No. Lust was the driving force behind that. No. Feels good. It feels good. It makes me feel good. This is a feeling disease. I feel good. It gives me a short-term ease and comfort. Yeah. I'm hooked on that, man. So when the guy said, are you ready to have every defect removed, Jimmy? No, not her or him or whatever your deal is. No, not that. So I didn't see that line. Now turn to God and ask the God of your conception that you have been developing a relationship with since step 3. Ask him to help you to remove that. Help you to turn your glasses around looking at your own defects and be willing to let them go. Or how many times you heard this prayer? Lord, make me willing to be willing. Help me to be willing to be willing to be willing. It works. Not in your time, my time. It works. Okay, that's step number 6. Are you now ready? Pray to be ready. How about 7? 7 is filled with humility. Filled. Page 76, paragraph 2, lines 1 to 7. So go to page 76, paragraph number 2, lines 1 to 7. Humility in this step. Go ahead.
When ready, we say something like this. My Creator, I am now willing that you should have all of me, good and bad. I pray that you now remove from me every single defect of character which stands in the way of my usefulness to you and my fellows. Grant me strength as I go out from here to do your bidding. Amen.
Okay.
We have then completed step 7.
Okay. How many people in here are willing to be willing to have God remove their defects of character in step 6? If you are, raise your hand. Congratulations. That's step 6. You completed step 6. No biggie. And now there's a prayer here. We're going to pray this together. Marty just sort of like shared it with us from the book. We'll pray this together. But there's a question here. And not a question. There's a point to be made. And this is where the humility comes in. I just saw something the other day. I'm reading something that was interesting. This town is going to be crushed. It's going to be totally annihilated. And the people who are in charge of the town, they're going to be annihilated by an enemy who's going to invade them. And they don't believe this prophet that's telling them that it's going to happen. So they go like this. Well, let's give God 5 days. We'll pray and ask God not to have us, conquered, but we'll give him 5 days to answer. And this wise woman says, who the hell do you think you are? You're putting terms on God? 5 days? Are you out of your mind? So the same thing happens here with these defects of character. I'm sober a long time. There's no perfection here. I'm a charter member of the Society of Imperfection. We don't call that shot. And here's the humility. I pray, God, that you now remove from me every single defect of Jimmy D that I would like removed when I say so. And I'll tell you the ones I want removed, and I'll let you know a couple I want to hold on to for a while because they look really good. And they make me feel okay because my natural state is restless, irritable, and discontent when I wake up in the morning. And so if I go to this little thing, it gives me a lift. You're addicted to it, brother. You're in slavery. You're in bondage. Surrender. Give it up. So here we go. Remember, what does it say? Whatever is useful for you. You're managing my life, not me. Sometimes you're going to find out that some of your liabilities may stick on, and you'll have a lot of time in recovery, and you'll be at a group situation sometime or somewhere, and you'll blurt out your defect and watch what happens to someone else in the room when they go like, oh my God, I never heard anybody talk like that before. I never heard anybody say that before. Oh, can I talk to you about that? That's exactly how it happens. I'm telling you. So trust the higher power, not you. So when you're ready, how about this? We pray this together. You ready? On three, on three, on three. 1, 2, 3. My Creator, I am now willing that you have all of me, good and bad. I pray that you now remove from me every single defective character which stands in the way of my usefulness to you and to my fellows. Grant me strength as I go out from here to do your bidding. Amen. Now we have completed step 7. It's a little different than just see what I mean? Alive. This stuff is alive and kicking here, man. Okay. So now the newcomer says to you, all right, well, listen, I did what you said. I read pages 13, 14, and 15 of the big book. In fact, let's do that. Let's go back to page 13. Turn to page 13. We didn't do this in the beginning. Let's go back to 13. Remember the story? This is Bill W. in the hospital, right? His sponsor comes to him, tells him, this is what I did in the Oxford group. They had 6 steps. We made 12 out of their 6. So they tell Bill in the hospital, his sponsor says, this is what I did. Now, you got to be careful of this kind of a cop-out from a sponsee. So let's see where we are. Well, we'll go back over this thing again. Look at the second paragraph. He's talking about step 3, right? He goes, there, where? There in Charlestown's hospital in detox, I offered myself to God as I then understood him. Obviously, Bill W. has grown his understanding of his higher power. And so will you. I'm sure you have. You're not the woman you were or the man you were. Okay, I gave him myself as I then understood him to do what? To do with me as he would. I placed myself unreservedly under his care and direction. That's similar to 7. Oh, wait. I admitted for the first time that of myself I was nothing. That's more surrender, right? Like I said before, I'll give you 5 days, God, to remove that defective character. After that, I'm keeping it. But of myself, I'm nothing. Yeah, Jimmy. Your ego is in there, baby. Okay. I ruthlessly faced my sins and became willing to have my newfound friend take them away root and branch. That's step 6 and 7. And now listen to this one-liner. Be careful if a sponsee pulls this on you. Well, we just prayed the 7-step prayer, didn't we? I have not had a drink since. I haven't acted out since. I haven't gambled since. I haven't compulsively overeaten since. I haven't texted that woman since. I haven't, whatever your dig is, I haven't looked at porn since. Be careful. You're not done yet. It's not done. Why? Because more action is necessary. That's what it says. Page 76, paragraph 3. Turn to page 76, paragraph number 3, lines 1 to 5. 76, this is step 8, folks. Step 8.
Now we need more action, without which we find that faith without works is dead. Let's look at steps 8 and 9. We have a list of all the persons we have harmed and to whom we are willing to make amends. We made it when we took our inventory.
The moral inventory sheet. Remember that from last week? That 7-page chart thing we gave you? Well, there was 3 charts in it. Or 4, actually. There was an extra one. And so part of it was, I'm listing across the line from left to right, if you remember, my 5 top resentments. But if you remember looking at that chart, as you looked all the way across the line, there were other X's in those boxes. How did they come up? Well, as I kept going down the list and talking to someone, talking to my sharing partner, how that I've harmed somebody by my jealousy or envy or laziness or my dishonesty. How did I harm somebody? Because I'm going to ask you that if I'm your sharing partner. So even dishonesty, for example, if I remember correctly in that chart, the person X'd, I've been dishonest with the IRS. In fact, I just saw something in the paper today about some two Christian people that had some kind of a televangel, whatever it was. I don't know, some kind of a thing. They were skimming money, scamming this all over the place. And the guy's doing 12 years and she's going to do 7. They got busted. So anyway, this person said I was dishonest with the IRS. And then if you looked at, they put an X in that, in the box of dishonesty with the IRS. Fine. How are you dishonest? Well, I've been cheating on my taxes most of my life. So I put an X in there. So then they go, and I'm also pissed at the IRS. Oh, so there's a resentment that goes up at the top. Another X. Even though you did your top 5, now you got another X. That's how it works, you know? So when you're doing that chart across the top, resentments. Across the top. How many? Fear. One of my top 5 fears. And now I go down to this baby. Selfishness, self-centeredness, the ego. How have I, and from then on, it's harm. How have I harmed somebody by my own self-centeredness and selfishness? Well, probably every time I've harmed somebody, it's because of that. So it's a given. You did it. Don't get hung up on trying to figure it out. You don't even have to name your top 5. You did. You harm people that way. And they're going to come out now when you get out to the next one. Have I harmed anybody because of my jealousy? Because of the way they focus their attention on my sponsor or my girlfriend? Have I harmed anybody that way? Well, no, not physically. Have you gossiped about them? Oh, damn, yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, so you harmed them. So you put an X in that box, right? What about my envy? We all know people that have more than we do, who are more successful than we are, or smarter than we are, who have things, and we feel envious toward them. But the question is, have you harmed anybody because of it? Well, I don't know, Jimmy. On what level? What do you mean by harm? Have you hurt them physically? No. How about emotionally, mentally? By the way you treated them? Maybe. Have you harmed them by spiritually? Especially by, betraying them in some way, shape, or form by gossip, which we all do. We do it. So don't worry about you got 1,000 of them, just the top 5, right? And then dishonesty is the next one on that sheet. I already said it, but most of us haven't been dishonest about things and we've harmed somebody by it. I worked for a big agency one time, and I made amends, by the way, using a basket. That's the 9th step. We'll get there by throwing money in the basket. But I worked for a big organization, very, very big, 35,000 members. And I got moved out of an office. All of us got moved out. Our unit got moved out of an office to another place. And it was going to be abandoned. So I stole a typewriter. Not an electric one. It was one of these manual jobs. That's how old I am. And I was sober. And it was in my mind, I'd had 3 years of sobriety when I took that typewriter. And I rationalized. Big deal. It's a big freaking, excuse my language, big freaking organization. What is it? What is it with them? No, but it bothered me. Because that's what happens to us when we're in this spiritual way of life. It bothers us. And I had to make an in-kind donation. I couldn't bring it back to the building. They destroyed it. So I made an in-kind donation by putting money in a basket. In an AA meeting. That's how you do it. That's the 9th step. So that's the story. You have your list. You got your list. Now look at step 9. You know what step 9 is, essentially? Step 9 in this, the way Bill writes it out here, and it's all in the page, in the 70s pages, I guess. We're going to go through some of them, not all. I don't think we'll have the time to do all of them. You have them in that handout. That's why the reference sheet that I give you, page 1, is so important to you. Because if we don't cover them all in a workshop, you got them. You can go look them up as you're going along, going at home. I'm not saying it's homework. You guys hate that word, but you know what I mean. So, but let's look at step 9. The first word is now. So if the new person says, well, when do I do that? I just did 6 and 7. We prayed 6 and 7 together. And I know we got this sheet of people I've harmed with their names. When am I supposed to do, when am I supposed to make amends? Oh, look at page 76, paragraph 3. Now go down 6 lines. Go down 6 lines till you find the word that tells you when you're going to do this. Begins with the letter N. Go ahead, Marty, read it.
Now we go out to our fellows and repair the damage done in the past. We attempt to sweep away the debris which was accumulated out of our effort to live under self-will and run the show ourselves. If we haven't the will to do this, we ask until it comes. Remember, it was agreed at the beginning we would go to any lengths for victory over alcohol.
Something else I never saw. I never saw it because I didn't read the book. I didn't study this book. I didn't have the will to do a lot of this. What does it say? What are these guys telling us? Jimmy, ask. Anytime you see the word ask, what does it mean? Pray. Pray. Ask your higher power to help you to do this. Why? Because page 45 says we have a dilemma. I have no power. I don't have the power to do this. But he does. I'll let him by asking him. And then I'll begin to act as if. I'll act as if in my fear and take it happen. Don't get me wrong. None of us wants to be a fundamentalist lunatic here. With everyone, you must complete step 9 absolutely right now. No. Some people work on this for a long time, and that's the way they work on it. But they're intending to do that, and sometimes you can't. But that's the deal. Start it. This is that important, by the way. This step is that important for the Oxford groupers, although they didn't have it as their, pardon me, they didn't have it a 9th step. They had it as their 5th principle. It's that important. Restitution, they called it. And what they said was this. We call it amends. They called it restitution. They said that this is the life changer step. Not 4 and 5, even though you think it is, Maybe 3 is a life changer. No, 3 is just a decision. I'm going to buy a ticket and go see my grandmother in California. But did you buy the ticket? No. Or I'm going to get on the plane. George Carlin used to say, you don't get on a plane, you get in a plane. If you get on the plane, it's traveling at 500 miles an hour, you get blown off. The point is, step 9 is the life changer. You start making amends. How do you make amends? I'm going to give you an example. I was in an irritable mood today. It happens, right? I went up to ShopRite. I brought milk back that was sour. My wife had milk and the expiration date was it was January 26th. Today's the 17th. So I brought the milk up to the counter in the service counter. And I said, this milk is sour. And the woman looks at me and goes like this. Do you have a receipt? And I didn't. Well, let me see your tag, your ShopRite tag. So I show her the ShopRite tag. And she goes, our policy is 3 days. 3 days after you buy it. If you don't bring it back within 3 days, then you don't get reimbursed. So I said, well, I didn't know that when I bought the milk. No one told me that. So she says, well, it's our policy. It's up here on the wall. At the information center, it's up on the wall. So here's my nice retort. Oh, I got it. So from now on, when I come to ShopRite, I stop here at the information center and I look at your wall to see what the signs are before I buy anything, including milk, right? She had already given me by the way, she already exchanged it. Or else you would have said,
In your ear, pal.
and I left because I was irritable. I got my milk and left. But when I'm driving home, it's bothering me because I'm a wise ass. Where's that coming from? My ego. It's the ego, the self-centeredness. I find a little certificate that has soda that I couldn't find. You get 4 for $5. So I got to go back to the store to buy this soda. I get the 4 for $5 and I think I'm gonna have to go back to her counter. I don't, I'm checking out. I check out. Before I left the store, this voice in my head goes like this. Go back to that lady. And I'm not boasting, by the way, by telling you the story. I'm a little embarrassed I had to do this, but I did. I went back there and said, ma'am, I'm the fellow that spoke outrageously this morning to you. And I was wrong. I was wrong. Please forgive me. She looks at me at first and didn't recognize me because it's a couple hours later and I got the soda. And she goes, oh, that's okay. I said, no, it isn't. Forgive me. I'm sorry. And then I walked out and I felt okay inside. You know, I just felt okay. So that's how it works. That's step 9. All right, let's go to page 76, paragraph 4, lines 1 to 6. Probably there are some what?
Probably there's still some misgivings. As we look over the list of business acquaintances and friends we have hurt, we may feel diffident about going to some of them on a spiritual basis. Let us be reassured. To some people, we need not and probably should not emphasize the spiritual feature of our first approach. We might prejudice them. At the moment, we are trying to put our lives in order, but this is not an end in itself. Our real purpose is to fit ourselves to be of maximum service to God and the people about us.
So there we go. Back in ShopRite, obviously my real purpose was not to just make amends to that lady. It was that, but that wasn't my real purpose, the founders say. My real purpose is to make myself fit to be of maximum service to my higher power and the people about us. That's my real purpose. We don't think of that. And what was I going to say to the lady? Well, listen, madam, I'm actually in a 12-step program and I'm trying to recover along spiritual lines. And no, you don't do that. Okay, here's another one on page 77, but you got to drop down 4 lines to the word, it is seldom wise. Same principle as we're talking about here, you know. Seldom wise to do what? Go into the spiritual thing. Bill did it. Go ahead.
It is seldom wise to approach an individual who still smarts from our injustice to him and announce that we have gone religious. In the prize ring, this would be called leading with the chin. We lay ourselves open to being branded fanatics or religious bores. We may kill a future opportunity to carry a beneficial message, but our man is sure to be oppressed with the sincere desire to set right the wrong. He is going to be more interested in a demonstration of goodwill than in our talk of spiritual discoveries.
Common sense, right? Common sense. We know that. Common sense. Okay. Let's go to page 77. What about somebody I just can't stand? You know, George Carlin, by the way, has this great, one of his skits. I always love one of his skits was everybody has a list of people they can do without. We all have a list of people they can do without. And he's got a whole routine on it, you know. A brain surgeon with Born to Lose tattooed on his hands. You know, a proctologist with poor depth perception. That's his skit. A lawyer who refers to the police as the federales. That's your list. Well, we all got our list. So go ahead. Let's page 77, paragraph 1, lines 9 to 14. Nevertheless,
with the person we dislike, we take the bit in our teeth. It is harder to go to an enemy than to a friend, but we find it much more beneficial to us. We go to him in a helpful and forgiving spirit, confessing our former ill feeling and expressing our regret.
Okay. Joanne, you're yawning. I can see you on the screen. She's my friend. But anyway, now here's a rule, an absolute. This is like an absolute. You know, I'm not an absolutist, but here's an absolute. And you can imagine yourself being on the recipient, being the recipient of this approach. Page 77, paragraph 2. So it's the next paragraph. Lines 1 to 5. And then we're going to go to 78, lines 1 to 4. So it's an absolute. Under no condition, they tell us. Got it?
Under no condition do we criticize such a person or argue. Simply, we tell him that we will never get over drinking until we have done our utmost to straighten out the past. We are there to sweep off our side of the street, realizing that nothing worthwhile can be accomplished until we do so, never trying to tell him what he should do. His faults are not discussed. We stick to our own. If our manner is calm, frank, and open, we will be gratified with the result.
I think I mentioned it to you earlier on, but, you know, especially with the resentment, when you approach somebody, in my opinion, by the way, I shouldn't say that, in my own experience, when I approach someone that I have a resentment against, and invariably they ask you, because you're going to say to them, you know, I've had a resentment against you for about 47 years. No, not really, but I've had a resentment against you for a while. And what is a person going to say? Why? Why? What did I do? What? Don't tell them. Don't disclose that. Because if you do, you open the door to potential debate, argument, and then you get defensive. You get defensive. And yeah, well, you're going to do it because I do it once in a while. You know what? You know why? And then all of a sudden, holy mackerel, you're, Jesus, Christmas. You know why? Finger pointing at them, 3 at you, So look at that. If our manner is calm, which a lot of us don't really have that chip yet, but if it's calm and open, we will be gratified with the result. Is that me telling you that? Is that Marty telling you that? No, that's the pioneers telling you that. Try it. It works. Okay, what about those of us with addictions that owe money to people? We owe money. I just found out, by the way, I got a haircut today. I guess you can tell. My ears stick out.
Which one?
Nevertheless. And the barber tells me he fired his other barber. So we had to wait online, I didn't have any resentment. It was okay. But he tells me he fired the other guy because he was dishonest and that he owed the guy across the street as a car repair place, $2,000.
Ooh.
And he absconded on the $2,000. I don't know if the guy's in recovery, but I don't think so. But nevertheless, he's a barber, but he doesn't work for him anymore. So anyway, page 78, paragraph 2, lines 1 to 12. Go ahead. Let's turn to that.
Most alcoholics owe money. We do not dodge our creditors, telling them that we are trying to do. We make no bones about our drinking. They usually know it anyway, whether we think so or not. Nor are we afraid of disclosing our alcoholism on the theory that it may cause financial harm. Approached in this way, the most ruthless creditor will sometimes surprise us. Arranging the best deal we can, we let these people know that we are sorry. Our drinking has made us slow to pay. We must lose our fear of creditors, no matter how far we have to go. For we are liable to drink if we are afraid to face them.
Yeah, I tell a story all the time because it's true experience. My daughter's friend asked me to work with her brother, who was an alcoholic and an addict, if I could help him. So the way I help people is I meet with them a couple of times, but then I'll say to them, look, if you want me to guide you through the 12 steps the way the founders did it, that's what I'll do. And that's what I do, what we're doing here. So I met with him in my living room, and we met once a week and we went through this stuff. It takes a little longer when you're doing it one-on-one, but anyway, I'm doing it with this guy. And it just so happens that he hung out in the bar, and he was in charge of a baseball pool. And that was a $2,500 pool. I don't know, I guess it was the series. I'm not sure what, but $2,500 bucks, a lot of money. 3 guys win it in this bar. he hadn't gone back to the bar and he spent the 2,500. So I said, so what are you going to do with that? What are you going to do? I don't know. I said, we're on the 9th step, by the way, working together on 9th step. So he says, I'm going to go to a Shylock and borrow the money. I said, that's insane. It'll cost you 12,000 for the 2,500. Don't do that. That's crazy. You can't do that. So he goes, oh, all right. I said, if you want to work the program the way it is suggested, you got to go to these 3 guys and be honest, because it was dishonest. You've harmed them by your dishonesty. You have to make amends and be honest and tell them what you did and say to them, you will do your best to pay it off. That's what you'll do. And that's a heavy, you know that, it's a heavy. Did you ever see the movie Flight with Denzel Washington when he's sitting at the tribunal and the judge says to him, were you drinking at that time? You flew the plane upside down or whatever the hell he did? He goes, I'm drunk now. Beautiful. Next thing you know, he's in jail at an AA meeting. You got to face the consequences. This guy didn't do that. He got a benefactor to give him the 2,500, and he paid off those 3 guys. And it wasn't long after that he drank. So, and he's still drinking, as far as I know. So it doesn't work. You gotta face. You have to face it. You got to face the shame. We have to face it, and that's why we have a relationship with a higher power and a sponsor. Okay, how many forms do these restitutions make? I told you that's the life changer for the Oxford Group. How many forms do they take? Well, page 79 tells us how many. Paragraph 2 on page 79, lines 1 to 9.
Although these reparations take innumerable forms, there are some general principles which we find guiding. Reminding ourselves that we have decided to go to any lengths to find a spiritual experience, we ask that we be given strength and direction to do the right thing, no matter what the personal consequences may be. We may lose our position or reputation or face jail, but we are willing. We have to be. We must not shrink at anything.
You got to get the movie Flight. Watch that. It's a phenomenal scene. It's a phenomenal scene. He lies throughout the whole deal because he's an alcoholic and a drug addict, and then he owns up at the end. He does a step 9. The other perfect example, by the way, and this is my preference in step 9 of a step 9 is watch the Christmas Carol. I think I talked about this before. Alastair Sim, 1951 editions, probably in any one of them, but that's my favorite. I got to watch it every year at Christmas time. Alastair Sim, the greatest. And he does a 9th step with his family. That is absolutely outrageous. Every time he does it, I start to cry. Because he hated his nephew and he hated his nephew's wife, who was poor. And Ebenezer Scrooge is not poor. His addiction was to money and wealth and power. But he makes amends to her. And he goes like this. He walks into the house and they're having a party. And everybody stops and looks at him. They hate him. Uncle Scrooge, they hate him. And he walks right up to the wife and he looks at her and he goes, can you forgive a pig-headed old fool who had no eyes to see with, no ears to hear with, all of these years? I get chills when I'm telling you this. She melts. And then the whole thing turns into a party. And I'm like, woo! Step 9 at its finest, the Christmas Carol. The whole movie, by the way, is us. Bottoming out, spiritual experiences, recovery, living it, the whole deal. You know what? Let's just take a little stop here and pass the basket if you don't mind. Be as generous as you can to help us out. And I'm going to post this on the screen once again. Just take a 5-minute break, all right? And then we come back. There you go. Ladies' room to the back there, over there, and the men's room is over there. Yeah. And you guys and gals at home, wherever your ladies and men's room is, you find it. Thank you.
I gotta get out of here early tonight.
Get out. Makes it easy. Okay.
Take care.
Michael M.
Right there, Spencer. I have some people online.
Where are we here? You gonna give me a hug? Oh, you just. God bless you. Oh, you do?
Yeah.
California. Welcome, California. Hold on a second. Yeah, get on the screen. Let me see you. Let me see you. Where is he here? Step down a little. Get in the camera range. Go ahead. There's Wiley. Wiley knows you. Hey, John LT. What do you say, John? I see you there, brother. Good to see you.
Keep up the good work, Jimmy.
Leonard B. from Bushwick. I see you over there. God bless you. Let's see who we got. I
Hey,
said
Jim, it's Andre.
and there's Jan, Mary Ann M. Charlie, Susan, Andrew H. What do you say, Andrew? Good to see you.
Hey, buddy.
Thank you, Jimmy,
Pedro from
Divine,
Rico,
and
you're
Marty.
Wands. Wiley,
So divine, Jimmy, so divine.
Leonard, Kathy, Peter, Rosemary. Hey,
God bless.
give me a hug.
Thanks, Jimmy. Have a good night.
I'm a little looser tonight.
I'm good, man. I'm not gonna be the guy that said, nah, you suck. Hey, Scott on that? Scotty on that?
Scotty, you going here, Scotty? Let's see.
Oh, Scott.
I'm gonna go over here. Let's try this out. There's two screens. Scotty?
No, just
Scotty?
Scott.
Is even,
Just Scott.
I don't
That's
see
Scott.
him.
All right, maybe he's not in there. Oh, well.
Scotty? That's John back there, right?
Yeah, John and Mike.
That's your man.
Hey, Marty. Yes, sirree.
Oh, Kenny, I'm here.
All right,
I
man.
was
In the chat.
coming live in person, but then I said I'd Zoom it tonight.
Thank you. God bless you. Thank you.
Thanks, Marty and Jimmy.
Okay, we're
Have a
gonna
good
start again,
night.
folks. Let's get rolling. Here's Katie. Hi, Katie. See you there.
Hi, Jim. Hi,
Kathy?
Marty. Thank you. Thanks for your service.
What do you say, Alex? Who else we got? We got Andre and my friend John, Lieutenant John, Ronnie, Linda Z. Don't forget now, folks, if you didn't get my instruction email, all right? I email them now to a lot of people that are on Zoom, but not everybody. If you didn't get my instructional email, then email me and I will send it to you. It's the instructional on how to do this 4th-step inventory chart. Makes it really simple. And if you're doing it with a newcomer especially, very simple. How many people are on here? 44. Okay. Every time we do this, there's usually a fall off. I did. It's recorded. Yeah. That's recorded. Young lady just comes up to remind me to record this tonight. I'm here. Okay, let's go. I think we got to mute.
Maybe it could be. Could be. Probably going up. But listen, in 07,
Any additions?
Dallas beat us twice. We beat them in the playoffs.
Come on, never mind, Marty. Never mind your
That was
football.
impressive.
He's addicted to football.
Before we leave, I just want to say I really enjoyed this. I really, before we leave later, I really enjoyed you guys.
Good. That helps. That helps us.
Good work.
Helps us continue.
And somebody else.
God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's God's work. It's God's work.
It's gonna be 200 days for me to retire.
Huh?
200.
God bless.
Ah, it's not good. You know what? I'm living a different life now.
You're not the woman you were.
You're living the dream.
You're not the woman you were.
You wanna know what am I?
That's right. They're going to say that to you. People are going to say, you're different. What are you doing? You're different. Something different.
How come you're so this or that? But I'm always that way. But this way, I'm noticing a lot. It's just you gentlemen make this really good. Thank you.
Good. Thank you. Okay, we're going to get back to it. Okay, folks. Now, what about if we make amends for harming someone, but we're involved with other people? We have a conspiracy going on here. and I make amends for my part in this burglary or theft or whatever it is, but 2 other guys and gals are involved in this, what about them? If I rat myself out, what about, what do we do here? This is drastic. Well, look at page 80, paragraph 1, lines 1 to 5. The founders covered that as well. Page 80, paragraph 1, lines 1 to 5. Before
Marty jigged the door.
go ahead.
Before taking drastic action, we might implicate other people. We secure their consent. If we have obtained permission, have consulted with others, ask God to help, the drastic step is indicated, we must not shrink.
The biggie, 2 biggies in here. 2 biggies. Consulted with others. Now, they don't say it in the book in 1939. I don't even know if the word sponsor is in the big book. It isn't. In fact, it isn't in the big book. But consult with others. Many of these people had someone that was their guardian, their mentor. That's important. So the same thing for us. Consult with somebody else before you take a drastic action. Why? Because we're so susceptible to the self. So susceptible to ego, to protecting it. So you talk to somebody else, usually a sponsor, as we would say, or a sharing partner in this case, using this back to basics method, And the other thing is what? I love it. Asked. See the word asked? Anytime you see the word ask, circle it. It means what? Pray. You're developing a relationship with a power greater than yourself that can remove the blocks. Why? Because if I don't, I'm blocked, and I may go back to the very thing that gives me my little ease and comfort, whatever that may be. You know what a definition of that? I don't know if I told you this. Here's a definition of an addiction. It's having an obsessive and compulsive relationship. So what's obsessive mean? I think a lot about it. What's compulsion? I am compelled against my will to do it. I have no power. I can't. I got to do it. So I have an obsessive and compulsive relationship with what? Any thought, substance, behavior, thought, substance, or behavior that has potentially negative consequences associated with it, and I do it anyway. When someone else tells me, you're harming me by that. That hurts me when you do that, and I do it anyway. That's an addiction. And I don't care what the symptom is. Doesn't matter. These steps work for it. Trouble is, you got to find a program where that fits in, a fellowship. I used to have a detective that came. I had my own private practice one time. I was a therapist and I had my own private practice, and I had a detective that came to me. Not going to give you any more information, but he was a kleptomaniac. He used to steal, and I mean anything. Jesus, this guy goes to a tennis thing and he steals a racket. He stole a machine. Juan would get this. Hope he's not here. But I'm not going to tell you his name. But anyway, his wife tells me, and Juan would understand that. By the way, Juan is a teaching pro, tennis pro. But his wife tells me, we go to this indoor tennis place, and they have this stretching machine. It's a machine that stretches the string on a racket, right? It's like it's made out of steel, I guess. I never saw one, but it's a machine. And she says to me, he says to the guy behind the counter, how much is that machine worth? And she goes, he's going to steal it. I know he's going to steal it. And sure enough, she finds it in the basement. I could tell you more, but whatever. I'm not going to tell you anymore. So, did we read 82? Page 82? Perhaps there are some cases. I don't know. Page 82, paragraph 1. Go ahead.
Perhaps there are some cases where the utmost frankness is demanded. No outsider can appraise such an intimate situation. It may be that both will decide that the way of good sense and loving kindness is to let bygones be bygones. Each might pray about it, having the other one's happiness uppermost in mind.
Key line there. Each may pray about it, having what? you in mind, not me. That's humility. That's the beginning of the formation of a spiritual way of life, humility. Let me get back to that thought, by the way, on that guy. So what do you do? If he has an addiction to stealing, what do you do? Where do they go? I had to try and find this Kleptomaniacs Anonymous meeting, 12-step program. And there was something like that. There was. Shoplifters, that's what it was. Shoplifters Anonymous. Similar. Some people have that kind of a compulsion, you know? Don't raise your hand, folks. I swear to God, don't raise your hand. Now, here's one here. And it's one of my peeves, my pet peeves. Jimmy, you don't drink and go to meetings. The rest of it is all horse shit. Excuse my language. You know what I mean? It's all crap. You don't drink and go to meetings. That's it. That's all I want. And that's fine. If that's all you want, that's what you'll get. That's fine. Well, what does page 82, paragraph 2 say? What do the founders say about that? They also make a metaphor of a tornado. I always like this about a tornado. Go ahead. Page 82, paragraph 2. Lines 2 to 7. Drop down one line. Sometimes we hear
an alcoholic say that the only thing he needs to do is to keep sober. Certainly he must keep sober, but there will be no home if he doesn't. But he is yet a long way from making good the wife or parents whom for years he has so shockingly treated. The alcoholic is like a tornado, roaring his way through the lives of others. Hearts are broken, sweet relationships are dead, affections have been uprooted, selfish and inconsiderate habits have been kept. Selfish and inconsiderate habits have kept the home in turmoil. We feel a man is unthinking when he says that sobriety is enough.
the ego at work. The ego at work. You know what? A euphemism or another word for ego is inconsideration. I am not considerate of you. I'm addicted to golf, and I must play golf every day. No, I'm not really, by the way. But, you know, and the wife starts saying, you know, you're never home. Like God Almighty, you're never home. The weekends, you're never home. And the kid, I have the kids, and you're not home because you got to be play golf. That's 6 hours out of your day. And if I continue to do that, I don't know. I'm not saying it's an addiction, but certainly that's inconsiderate and that's harmful. And we hurt other people. And by the way, that guy that was stealing the tennis machine or the string machine, not an alcoholic. So to see what I mean? It's the symptom doesn't matter. That's just a symptom. We got to get down to causes and conditions. That's ego running the show. Ego. And you know what else, folks? It never dies. Mine isn't dead. Yours is not going to be dead. That's why you have a relationship with a power greater than yourself. Only God. That's on page 64. Only God can help you with that. Your God, the God of your conception, not mine. Jimmy, how long is this going to take for me to do this? I mean, you know, how long do I got to live this stuff here? What is it with me here? Wow. Page 83, paragraph 1, lines 1 to 10. This is what you're going to tell your sponsee when you're sitting down with them. When he goes, how long is this going to take anyway? You know, I'm getting a little bored with this. Yes, there is a long what?
Yes, there is a long period of reconstruction ahead. We must take the lead. A remorseful mumbling that we are sorry won't fill the bill at all. We ought to sit down with the family and frankly analyze the past as we now see it, being careful not to criticize them. Their defects may be glaring, but the chances are that our own actions are partly responsible. So we clean house with the family, asking each morning in meditation that our Creator show us the way of patience, tolerance, kindness, and love.
Circle asking.
The spiritual life is not a theory. We have to live it.
Sounds like real syrupy stuff, huh? No, asking. Long period of reconstruction ahead. Telling you, where do you get to step 10 next week? By the way, you know, we noticed that this always happens. Usually after session 1, the attendance falls off. After step 4 and 5, it falls off more, and it falls off like tonight, tomorrow. Let's see what happens next week. It's our crescendo, 10, 11, and 12.
He's
But
putting
anyway.
guilt on you.
Now, what's this deal? If you're going to be in recovery for the rest of your life, I pray and hope you do. I hope you do. Are there some harms that you've done or some wrongs that you just can't right? Of course there are. There's no perfection here. None. Page 83, paragraph 3. It's a process. Oh, by the way, hold on before you read it. Somebody put in the chat. Thank you, Peter. I said, there's no word sponsor in the big book. And somebody wrote the word protege. There was the word protege. I don't know where that is, but
Yeah, I think I remember that.
my sponsor said so. My sponsor said so, this fellow said. No sponsor in the big book, just your protege. My sponsor was a rough, tumble union guy. I don't think he even could spell that word, protege. He never called me protege. Jimmy, you're my protege.
Now, you're his pigeon.
He used to go like this. God, help me to talk to this nut. I don't know what to say to him. I'll pick him up at 7:30.
Oh, boy.
All right, here we go. Page 83, paragraph 3.
There may be some wrongs we can never fully right. We don't worry about them if we can honestly say to ourselves that we would right them if we could. Some people cannot be seen. We send them an honest letter.
Okay, send them an honest letter. There's a little caveat on the letter or an email. If you've harmed them by letter or email, then go ahead, send them an email. If you've harmed them by a text, then go ahead and send them a text. But if you've harmed them in person, no letters, unless you can't, they're in California and you don't want to get in the plane rather than on the plane. You know what I mean? So again, wisdom. Trouble with wisdom is in our world today, knowledge has replaced wisdom. And knowledge is based on data. Everybody likes facts and data. And wisdom gets missing. Some people say, what is it about? The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom.
Correct.
And I don't mean fear, or having this kind of a connection with your higher power. Because you got no power. He does. Okay. Let's go to page 83. We all know them. And why don't we do this together? All right. Page 83, paragraph 4, lines 1 to 5. They call them the 12 promises. Actually, in my opinion, there's 13. But there are 12 promises. And they're the promises after you complete step 9. So you're pretty far spiritually along as far as these founders are saying. When they said, and by the way, this is not easy to do. This ain't easy to do. This is painful for some of us. In fact, the more shame we have, the harder it is. So, page 83, paragraph 4, lines 1 to 5. Why don't we read together the 12 promises, and leave your mics muted, or else it'll sound like the Tower of Babel. So, but we can do that here. Let's read the 12 promises together. Page 84 on 3. Ready? 1, 2, 3. If we are painstaking about this phase of our development, be amazed before we are halfway through. We are going to know a new freedom, new happiness. We will not regret the past, nor wish to shut the door on it. We will comprehend the word serenity, and we will know peace. No matter how far down the scale we have gone, we will see how our experience can benefit others. The feeling of uselessness and self-pity will disappear. We will lose interest in selfish things and gain interest in our fellows. Self-seeking will slip away. Our whole attitude and outlook on life will change. Fear of people and of economic insecurity will leave us. We will intuitively know how to handle situations which used to baffle us. We will suddenly realize that God is for us what we could not do for ourselves. And what's the closing? Are these extravagant promises? We think not. They are being filled among us, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. Here's the 13th promise. They will always materialize if we work for them. But here's the other deal, and this happens for you. It's going to happen for you. It's happened for me. Happens for me. spiritual fitness suffers. We don't stay in great shape spiritually all the time. And unfortunately, when we do that, and if we stay in that state long enough, we start backing up through those promises. It's almost like a reversal. They start backing up. One of the tough ones when I'm not spiritually fit is fear of people come back, or economic insecurity. I had a lot of years in recovery and when I was in the world of work. And I used to struggle a lot of times with lack of trust and fear of financial insecurity. Always those two. But we don't stay there. We move on. It's a dynamic process. Okay. I'm not going to go through the rest of these two charts, other than to tell you this. The last two handouts. Marty and I, we changed these. These two, this is like a preview of step 11. One handout is called the prayer process, and the other one is called life-changing seismic shifts. They're both about prayer and meditation. They're both about that. They're written by a guy named Matthew Kelly. They're phenomenal, in my opinion. And the book that they come from is the first one. The book is called I Heard God Laugh, which is a great book. Simple, thin, easy to read. For people like me that are stuck on classic comics, this is an easy one. And the other one is the same one, I Heard God Laugh. So they're both two handouts. You can have them. We're not going to go through them all. You can do that on your own. We replaced what we used to do. In that book, Back to Basics, the way Wally Patton did it, he used to do something called How to Listen to God. And it was a form of meditation that the Oxford groupers did. And they went through step by step on how to do meditation and contemplation and prayer in a two-way prayer process. You talk to God, you ask him something, and you write down what you think he's saying to you. It's called two-way prayer. The reason we stopped doing it is because we didn't do it. We never got into that form of meditation. We both have our own form of practice of prayer and meditation, but we didn't do that one. It didn't catch with us. So it would be hypocritical to say, all right, let's now go to these two. And we used to do that, but we didn't do it. We do this sometimes. So if you like it, implement it in your life. If you don't, we'll see you next week. Thanks for coming. God bless. Hey. I didn't say goodbye to you guys last week. I apologize.
Hi, Jen Jen.
Goodbye to you now.
Just say it twice now.
Say goodbye.
Take care, Jimmy. Thank you so much. Be good.
Thank you for your service,
Smiley,
Jimmy.
for helping.
Adios.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, Jimmy. Hi, everybody.
God bless you.
Thank you, Jimmy.
Hi,
Ronnie.
Jimmy. Hi, Marty.
Mary, God bless you. Where's
Hey,
Cindy?
take care.
Cindy said she went to my high school. She went to high school around the corner from me. Where is she? I don't know where she is. Not here this week. Okay. I came
Thanks, Jimmy.
from. Good night, everybody. Thank you. God bless. Thanks for your generosity.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jimmy.
You got some grip on you. Where did you get that grip?
My dad.
Jeepers.